What happens when Hollywood royalty meets actual royalty, and everything goes spectacularly wrong? You won't believe what unfolded on Jennifer Hudson's talk show last night, when Prince Harry made what was supposed to be a promotional appearance, but instead delivered one of the most explosive confrontations in daytime television history. The tension was palpable from the moment he walked onto the set, but nobody could have predicted the nuclear meltdown that was about to occur. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're not going to believe what unfolds when two powerhouse personalities clash in the most dramatic way possible. The atmosphere in Studio 6B was already electric, as Jennifer Hudson welcomed Prince Harry to her show, ostensibly to discuss his various charitable endeavors and upcoming memoir updates. However, from the very first exchange, something felt different. Hudson, known for her no-nonsense interviewing style and ability to cut through celebrity facades, seemed unusually focused, almost predatory in her questioning. "Prince Harry, it's wonderful to have you here," Hudson began, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "I have to ask, though, with everything that's happened with your family over the past few years, how do you reconcile your public calls for privacy with your very public media appearances?" The question hung in the air like a loaded gun. Harry shifted uncomfortably in his chair, clearly not expecting such a direct opening salvo. "Well, Jennifer, I think there's a difference between wanting privacy for my family and speaking out about important issues that affect—" "But is it really about important issues?" Hudson interrupted, leaning forward with laser focus. "Or is it about maintaining relevance and income streams now that you've been cut off from royal funding?" The studio audience fell silent. This wasn't the softball interview anyone had anticipated. Harry's jaw tightened visibly, his media training kicking in as he attempted to maintain composure. "I think that's rather presumptuous, Jennifer. My work with veterans, mental health advocacy, and environmental causes speaks for itself." Hudson wasn't backing down. "Does it, though? Because from where I sit, it looks like you've built an entire brand around criticizing the very institution that gave you everything, while simultaneously trading on that same royal title for profit. That seems pretty hypocritical to me." The tension in the studio became suffocating. Harry's hands gripped the arms of his chair as his carefully constructed public persona began to crack. "I've never claimed to be perfect, but I've been honest about my experiences and the trauma I've endured. Something I don't think you can understand from your position." That was the spark that ignited the powder keg. Hudson's eyes flashed dangerously. "My position? Let me tell you something about positions, Prince Harry. I grew up in Chicago housing projects, lost my mother and brother to violence, and worked my way up from nothing. I didn't inherit castles and titles and then complain about how hard my life was on international television. That's completely different," Harry started, but Hudson was just getting warmed up. "Is it different? Because last I checked, trauma is trauma. The difference is, I didn't turn mine into a Netflix special and a best-selling book deal. I didn't throw my family under the bus for profit margins." Harry's face was reddening now, his composure slipping further with each pointed barb. "You don't know what you're talking about. The media destroyed my mother, and they were doing the same thing to my wife. I had to protect my family." "Protect your family?" Hudson's voice rose incredulously. "By giving all interviews to Oprah? By writing a memoir detailing private conversations with your father and brother? That's protection? That sounds more like exploitation to me." The audience was transfixed, witnessing what felt like a car crash in slow motion. Harry was visibly struggling to maintain his media-trained responses. "You're twisting everything I've said. The book, the interviews. They were about setting the record straight. About my truth." "Your truth?" Hudson laughed bitterly. "That's rich. Your truth versus everyone else's truth. But here's the thing about truth. It's not subjective when it comes to facts. And the fact is, you've made millions of dollars playing the victim while living in a $40 million mansion in Montecito." Harry's voice began to crack with anger. "I never asked to be born into this family. I never asked for the paparazzi, the scrutiny, the loss of privacy. Do you think I wanted my mother to die? Of course you didn't," Hudson shot back, her tone sharp as a blade. "But you've spent the last 4 years making sure everyone knows about it, haven't you? You've monetized your mother's death, your trauma, your family relationships. That's not healing. That's exploitation. The studio was electric with tension as Harry stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. How dare you? How dare you sit there and judge me when you have no idea what I've been through? Hudson rose to meet him, unflinching. I'm not judging your pain, Prince Harry. I'm judging your choices. There's a difference between healing and profit, between speaking your truth and burning bridges for book sales. This is unbelievable, Harry muttered, his hands shaking slightly. I came here thinking I was going to have a respectful conversation, not a character assassination. Sometimes the truth feels like assassination when you've been living in denial, Hudson replied coldly. You want to talk about respect? What about respecting your grandmother who just passed away? What about respecting your father who's battling cancer? Instead, you're out here promoting another project that probably tears them down some more. That was the breaking point. Harry's carefully constructed public image completely shattered as he exploded. You know what, Jennifer? You don't know me. You don't know my family. You don't know anything about the sacrifices I've made, or the courage it took to walk away from everything I knew. Courage? Hudson's voice dripped with disdain. Courage would have been staying and working within the system to create change. Courage would have been protecting your family's privacy without selling them out. What you did was run away and then spend years justifying it by attacking everyone you left behind. Harry was pacing now, his composure completely gone. I protected my wife from the same racism and hatred that killed my mother. I did what any husband would do. Did you, though? Hudson pressed relentlessly. Because from where I sit, it looks like you threw your entire family under the bus, damaged relationships that took decades to build, and turned your personal trauma into a global media circus. That doesn't sound like protection to me. That sounds like revenge. The audience was completely silent, everyone sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented. Harry turned toward the cameras, his face flushed with anger and humiliation. This is exactly why I left. This is exactly the kind of attack journalism that destroyed my mother. Hudson wasn't finished. Don't you dare compare me to the paparazzi who chased your mother. I'm asking you legitimate questions about your public statements and actions. If you can't handle that level of accountability, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. Harry spun back around, his voice rising to near shouting levels. Accountability? This isn't accountability. This is a hit job. You brought me here under false pretenses to ambush me. I brought you here to have an honest conversation, Hudson fired back. But apparently, honesty is something you're allergic to unless it's profitable. You want to dish it out in your books and interviews, but you can't take it when someone challenges your narrative. The confrontation reached its crescendo as Harry's mask completely slipped. My narrative? My narrative is my life. My pain is real. My experiences are valid. Nobody's questioning your pain, Hudson said with deadly calm. We're questioning your exploitation of it. There's a difference between healing and profiteering, between sharing your story and destroying your family for content. Harry stood frozen for a moment, his chest heaving with rage and humiliation. The studio lights seemed to burn hotter as the silence stretched unbearably. Finally, he ripped off his microphone, the equipment clattering to the floor. This is over, he declared, his voice hoarse with emotion. I don't have to sit here and be insulted by someone who clearly has their own agenda. Hudson remained seated, watching impassively as Harry stormed toward the exit. The only agenda here is truth, Prince Harry. And apparently, that's something you can't handle. Without another word, Harry pushed past the stunned production crew and disappeared through the studio doors, leaving behind one of the most explosive confrontations in talk show history and a host who had just proven that even royalty isn't immune to being held accountable for their choices.